Nottingham Budget Committee meeting of July 26, 2018. And I would like to call the meeting to order and start with introductions.
Hi, my name is Lee Lederer. Jen Meyer.
Mishka Haddock, Chair.
Karen Lee.
Michael Keister.
Erin Maskwa.
Thank you. And with us we have Chris Sterndale. And so we're going to go over election of officers, chair and vice chair. I don't know, can we, yeah, I guess we can do that tonight, right?
You have to. Sorry,
have
I'm
to. So we've got, how many positions do we actually have open? Is it 3 or just 2?
2.
2, okay. Election of who wants to, anybody have a desire to be chair?
How are you feeling about chair? And vice chair. It's went so well last year. Or chair and vice chair. Just, throwing that out there.
Yeah, right.
Contingency that you not be able to, is that correct?
Yes. I put right up there, stage fright.
It goes by quickly. Does anybody have a desire and no? Wow. At least you guys volunteered. Yeah, Carol Martin's not here. Michael, do you have a desire to be chair?
Not overwhelming. If you're getting tired of it, you could probably split it further.
Okay. I'm fine with being chair. This is my last year anyway. I don't know whether or not I'll want to get in the spring or whether I'll look for a different department. I'm happy to keep this position. So either way, it's fine with me. I'm happy to relinquish it. I'm happy to stay with it. So if you want it, I'm happy to relinquish it and be your co-chair because nobody else wants to be co-chair. It's just a time commitment.
I appreciate the job you're doing.
Thank you.
I would like to move that Mishka be nominated for chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Keeping things organized and keeping things moving and keeping the meetings running smoothly. So thank you. I appreciate your willingness to do that.
Chair, vice chair.
Thank you.
And we make a motion to have Michael. I can second that. I can do something.
All in favor of Michael being co-chair? All in favor? Michael, welcome to co-chair.
Thank you, gentlemen, by the way. Appreciate it.
All right. The next order of business is the second quarter of the town budget and general town updates. So with us we have Chris Sterndale. Welcome. Thank you for being here. If you want to just take us through the updates and so on.
Okay. You all have something that looks like this, right?
Yes.
I think we're all talking the same language here. This is June 30th, so it's half of our fiscal year. Overall, we're fine, we're in good shape. 45% of the budget has been spent for 50% of the year. A couple of major purchases haven't been made, and a couple of major expenses are fully covered here. I'll touch on those as we go through. Payroll is scattered around a whole bunch of different lines, but it's half of the pay period, so if you want to get a sense of where we are versus the budget, you can use 50%. That's 13 of our pay periods. I'll just touch on the outliers and the big ticket items, and if you want to interrupt me, go right ahead. I'll try and stay in order rather than dollar order, but line item order. The elections, we still haven't done 2 of our 3 elections. That starts on line 33, 34. We'll probably struggle to make that budget, but it's relatively small dollars. We have an election in September and another in November. Everything's pretty quiet now through legal on line 77. Things have quieted down quite a bit in that regard, so we pulled that budget back and we're still not going to hit that. Knock on wood.
Was that related to USA Spring stuff?
Yeah,
or what was going on
that
earlier?
was the bulk of our, over the last few years. It's been about the last 10 years. It's been the bulk of our legal costs. We only have, I mean, we use our attorneys for a whole bunch of things, kind of piecemeal. We only have 1 case in court right now, a tax abatement case. That's going to trial next week or next month. It's coming right up, so that'll be all wrapped up. We have 1 more flurry of USA Spring related stuff to do this year, but it's not going to be super expensive. Jumping down to facility related stuff down in the 120s, 130s. Our fuel costs and our heating costs are creeping up with the price of oil. So we're going to be okay this year, but next year I think that's going to be a struggle for us. I think we'll see what the market does. Line 150, that group of insurance payments, that's one of the ones that's already been made in full. We make single payments on our workers' comp, our property liability, so those are spent out, but we won't spend any more on any of those this year. Into the police department, we've been fully staffed all year in the PD. It's the first time we've had 6 months straight being fully staffed in a long time, which is great. It's helping on the overtime line. You see that's low. Even when we're fully staffed, we don't have as much need to use overtime, so that's nice. Line 179 is the purchase of our new cruiser. That'll be in service tomorrow, so most of that cost is covered already. 1 more small bill to pay there. Fire, we'll probably save a little bit in the payroll line. We've got a vacancy brewing there. We've been fully staffed. We're going to have probably a short vacancy. And that'll be offset with some extra spending on that part-time line, but that'll finish the year fine. Line 192 is the stipend for our call firefighters. That doesn't happen until December. That's a bigger ticket item, and that'll all be spent all at once in December. Line 208 is the replacement of a dry hydrant on the Crows Road. That's going to happen in about 6 weeks, so that hasn't been spent yet. Everything else in highway and fire is pretty uneventful. They did order the truck that was approved by town meeting. That's all kind of off the budget here, but it's on track. Highway department, we continue to be understaffed there. We've got, we have just 1 vacancy now. We just hired somebody that hasn't started yet, but if you look at all the ways we spend money on payroll there, lines 245, 246, 247 is our, and more year-round employees. Line 251 is hired, 249 is hired plowing. being short-staffed last year, we had to hire more contracted plow trucks and drivers. So you see we're well underspent on our usual payroll and overtime line, but spent a bunch more on contract services. So we're going to finish the year there well over budget, just because of the vacancies we're not going to use all that.
Is there still a search? I remember from last year, we were talking about a possible public works position, but that hadn't quite panned out. Is that
Yeah,
still?
we're struggling with that. We've posted either highway department director or public works director, which we've defined as slightly different jobs, trying to find somebody that would be a good fit for us and different responsibilities. We've been through 3 rounds of that. We're not attracting much in the way of candidates. We had one that didn't last. Not close, maybe with one other candidate. It's been a real struggle. The board's spent a lot of time on it, trying to find ways to, find somebody that can fill that role. They've talked with outside firms about getting help with recruiting. They've been involved with all the interviewing and everything. There's just not that many people out there that want this kind of work.
Yeah.
We're not competitive wage-wise. It's not a really attractive job. You gotta plow all night and you gotta run a department all year. It's a tough job to fill. So it's still job one on the board, works on something related to it every week meeting. We're talking about it, trying to find something. It's beating us up, it's tough. I counted, I think it was 8 towns last month in New Hampshire had postings for highway directors or public works directors. Lee is looking right now. Northwood's going to be looking at the end of the year. There's just not a lot of people who want to do that kind of work, and the economy's booming. So those folks can find work in the private sector that's much more lucrative in the short term anyway.
Yeah.
If you know anybody. We're looking at, we're preparing to hire more contract plow drivers for this coming winter. Our staffing side, we're going to be okay, but we want a little bit more depth. We were at least one body short for most storms last year. We had one injured and on top of being short, so we're trying to bulk up on the contract side just in case. I'm meeting with Lee tomorrow, the Lee Public Works Director. We're going to explore working together to find some contract help. So we're throwing everything we can think of at it. But
Chris, how's that impacting the road construction?
most of our construction, like the major project kind of work, we contract out. Most of our staff spend most of the summer season doing the lesser maintenance stuff. Brush clearing, shoulder work, things that we can do with a small crew and not a lot of equipment. So the major reconstruction or paving projects won't be impacted by our short staffing. We have our usual overlay program ongoing. Those bids are due tomorrow. We're working on a bid package to pave Cooper Hill Road, so that's going to go forward despite our shortage of people. Those will still happen.
That's not just paving, that's a neighborhood road too, isn't it?
No, Cooper Hill, we're gonna take the top off, and add a little bit of material. The section that we're doing, we don't have to dig down too much, but the whole thing is gonna be contracted out, soup to nuts. Flagger, screw, everything. So our involvement should be pretty limited from our highway staff point of view. And same with the overlay, the shim overlay stuff that we do every year is pretty independent of our guys. So we should be able to I'm interested to see what that market looks like with those bids coming back tomorrow. I don't have a sense of it. I know we have some folks interested. We're going to get multiple bids, so that's good. I don't know what the price is going to be.
Are you exploring possibly materials that'll last longer? I know there's a lot of, you can mix plastics now with the concrete that's supposed to,
We haven't looked at plastics at all. We pretty much use New Hampshire DOT specs in terms of what kind of materials, for asphalt. They may have specs for other materials, but we're using primarily asphalt. I think you probably see us broadening that down the road. We'll look, there's all kinds of stuff you can throw into asphalt now that even if it lasts the same amount of time, it can be cheaper. But quite honestly, if we could find somebody that knew that world, knew that industry to be our highway and public works director, that's the kind of stuff we task them with doing. I don't know enough about it to move in that direction yet. We are using a little bit different material on our gravel roads this year. We're buying material, which we haven't done in the past, to try out, using some crushed gravel rather than stuff we have in our own pit. So we'll see how that holds up. So far, so good. What else is happening in highway? Line 252, what is that? Oh, equipment maintenance. We have a waste oil furnace to heat the garage. The thing just can't stay running. I think you're going to see us come back with a proposal to replace that with some propane equipment. We just keep pouring money into the thing. It's a great concept to use waste oil at the highway garage, but it gets pretty cold in there pretty fast when the thing isn't working.
This is the one right across the street.
Yeah, we're going to go on Flood Street. Line 257, that's highway salt. We've used up most of that. The barn is, the shed is just about full. It was an icy winter, so we went through quite a bit. We may have to take another delivery or two in December. We'll push that line over. We'll see how the December weather treats us. Line 264, the miscellaneous line, that is a truck purchase of F-550 truck. What you see there is the deposit. We've selected it, ordered it, made a deposit on it. And it'll come in just a shade under that budget amount, I think, when all is said and done. And that'll be delivered in time for plowing season as well. The biggest ticket item is line 266, Jim and Seal Coat. That's the overlay program. The bids are coming in on tomorrow. We'll determine the final spend on that once we see what we can afford. We'll probably get right up close to it, do as much as we can without going over. Depending on how, we need to go over a little bit if it means finishing up another road that we've got a little bit of room to do that.
The stage road paving, is that not, I would have thought that was Shim and Silco maybe in.
Stage is the state road, that wasn't us.
Oh, I
Recycling center's fully staffed, has been for quite a while. If you aren't aware, we got some test results back from our groundwater monitoring a couple months ago. For the first time this year, we tested for PFCs, PFAs, PFOAs. You've heard them called a whole lot of different things, fluorocarbons. That's the Copley landfill, the Merrimack, St. Cobain, those are all those things, right? They're the same stuff. DES this year required that all towns doing groundwater monitoring to close the landfill test for that chemical, and we found it in, I'd say, very high levels in the groundwater monitoring. So we have just completed a second round of testing. We did some confirmatory tests at the site itself, and also tested the well water of 8 or 10 homes in the vicinity to see if it has migrated. It's what the EPA calls a contaminant of emerging concern or something like that. There's a lot more science to be done on the effects of the stuff, but it's getting a whole lot of attention, understandably. It could be a carcinogen or something, I'm outside.
Well, the Merrimack area, those people are all getting like bottled water.
Yeah, there's a huge state effort in response to it in a few sites. This is the first time that a lot of places like ours, they sealed landfill, our landfill was sealed 13, 15 years ago, capped. This is the first year that testing is required, so I think we're probably not going to be alone in finding it. We've been in close contact with DES. Our engineers are optimistic that it hasn't spread beyond the site because of the hydrology there and the topography around the site. So we're optimistic, but we don't know. If we do find that the wells in the area, if it has migrated and is showing up in those wells, then DES is going to be a lot more involved, and we're going to have a bigger situation on our end. We'll know the results of those in about 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks from this week. Anyway, I bring all that up because I don't think there's I should say that. We don't really have any sense of what any liability for us could be. You will see a lot more spending here just for that second round of testing. And if that testing indicates that we need to do something else in the way of testing, there'll be more there. It could change our testing regimen going forward. We may have to do things differently every year. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. We really have to get a look at that second round of tests and see what the situation is.
I haven't followed the stories down in Merrimack. I'm aware of it, but I haven't followed the story closely. What's the remediation process for something like that? You know?
I don't know if there is one. It's a common contaminant. It's starting out, now that everybody's paying attention to it, it's showing up all over the place.
So, but I mean, that way down there, I think the blame is going to manufacturers and companies that are in that area that have been disposing of.
Right, in
material.
that case, I think it's pretty clear what the source of the contamination is, and that company's been paying freight for most of it. A situation like Oakley in Greenland, it's not clear what the source is. It's not, there's no one obvious industrial user of a site or something like that. The same is true of us. We don't have industrial waste per se in our landfill. It was residential solid waste for however many decades it was used. So there is no obvious reason for it. There is no, there's theories, but there's no real knowledge yet of what the source it is. And so it's kind of an outlier so far, but I think there may be more coming out of towns like us, but I don't know.
Is it something that can be filtered, or is it?
Yes, there is. There is something, I haven't got into it in the details, but there is some kind of treatment process you can use.
Reverse osmosis take care of it? Or?
What's that?
Is reverse osmosis take it out?
I don't know. There is some residential scale treatment that is available. And that's, we're going to be looking at DES to tell us what to do there, and what resources are available from them will dictate what their guidance and their resources will drive us if we have a broader problem. So we're putting our thumbs waiting for the test results to come back from California. Line 273, we're blowing the doors off our equipment maintenance lines. We've been surprised by problems with our Bobcat up there, our forklift, and had to replace some doors on the trailers out back, so we're going to miss on that line for the year. You've probably heard that the recycling market's gone to hell. There's no place to sell the stuff. Nobody's buying anything. Towns are scrambling all over the place. It's not huge numbers for us. The problem will show up on the revenue side. We don't have great expense differences whether we can sell those materials or not. We are going to take in less. But it's maybe a $30,000 line item for us in revenue. So even if you cut it in half, it's not going to kill us. The real value for us has always been not the sale of the materials, but just keeping them out of the landfill and not paying $75 a ton to throw them in the landfill. It doesn't matter if you get $10 a ton or $15 a ton when you sell it, if you're saving $70 and throwing it in the landfill, that's the real value of it. So it shouldn't, unless it gets to the point where nobody, one of the things that we do very well compared to a lot of places is our materials are relatively clean and well segregated. Residents do a good job. Our staff does a good job of we've got everybody trained to separate the different kinds of plastics and, keep the right kinds of paper and things. The towns that are really getting killed are the ones that have gone to single stream recycling where there isn't really not much of a market for that. You end up paying more to get rid of single stream recycling now than you do solid waste in some cases. But since ours is on the better end of materials, we are not, we can still find somebody to take it off our hands and feel
What is single stream?
single stream, take all your recyclables, your glass, your cans, your paper, throw it all in one bucket.
Oh, okay. And then they separate
And somebody
it.
else figures out to do it, sorts it out. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I've seen
cities
those.
do a lot of cities are doing that because it's awesome from a consumer point of view.
Yeah, you throw it all in one place. I don't know what. I
I
just recently drove through, I think it was Claremont, and they have like a massive center, and it said zero recycling or zero waste recycling or something like that, and it was basically the same thing. It was, you throw everything in one bag, and they take it, and I don't know what they do, but somehow they separate.
Yeah, there's industrial and human sorting operations, but that is so costly, and the end product is not as valuable as stuff that's sorted from the beginning.
Right.
I live in Durham, and we have single stream. We now have like 3 buckets of recycling and 1 bucket of trash.
Right.
On pickup day, it's cool. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything. You pay for it. So, all those years of learning how to sort plastics and figuring out ways to keep your kitchen in one piece while you're, in between dump runs, it's actually making a difference, for us. So that's good.
Would it help if there's an ability to work with other communities to get our costs down?
We do a lot through the Northeast, what is the name? NRRA, Northeast Recycling Recovery Association or something. They are a good aggregator of stuff. We find vendors through them and actually send some material through them, it's a really big outfit, but it's regional, so that's the best. It's really the only game in town in terms of working with others. The next step beyond that would be consolidating facilities, which is that's a whole lot of lots of rocks. You see some towns have multi-town recycling centers. And those are typically things that have been 30, 40 years ago they got together and did something. I'm trying to give examples of that. Pittsfield does that.
Yep. Farmstead, Epsom, Chichester, and Pittsfield.
Yeah. So those folks are all driving, 40 minutes or whatever they want to get one place to ours. Let's see. The only thing I had on to mention was line 336. I think that's in the historical. Yeah. So that cost there will go away. That is the repainting of the main school and the construction of the handicap ramp in the back. There's a separate appropriation for that, so that'll come out of the operating budget. And that won't be there come year end. Looks great. We haven't noticed it.
Yeah.
And everything else is, all the smaller departments are all, they're all fine, on or under. It's like recreation's in good shape. Most of our summer stuff and all the cash, that all is kind of off the budget through the fresh revolving fund, so that doesn't change very much. So we're going gonna be fine. We, you know, with these vacancies and the control that we have over that single biggest line item left, we're gonna finish the year just fine. I've been more nervous, other years at this point in the year, so. I was looking for Ben. Ben has been talking about coming to this meeting for a long time. He sends his regrets. He's got a family member that just went into the hospital last month, so he's been planning on being here, but sends his regrets.
Yes, things are looking pretty good from what I can tell. I did not, I got this a couple days ago or whatever, and glanced through it real quick. But, the question I had, wasn't there was a big expense for the fire department for, was it their new breathing apparatus and so on?
Yeah, that'll fall in next year. That'll come out of the.
That's going into next year?
Yeah. We are gonna take out of it. We rebranded the vehicle reserve fund at town meeting this past year.
That's right.
Cover that expense. Stuck some extra money in it. We'll stick some more extra money in it next year. And town meeting hopefully will approve that purchase in the 2019 town meeting.
And a lot of that money's already been saved in the reserves now?
Well, we in buying the fire truck we just bought, we pretty well emptied that fund, and we have put in 100,000-ish each year. I think we bumped that up to a little bit in 19, not a lot, but but if we'll stay on pace to put about the same amount in the reserve fund each year, and so it won't feel like a big tax impact when we make that comes to that breathing apparatus purchase. It's still, you know, it's $110,000 hit next year, 110 or 20, so very bad. But that's what we've been doing, so it's on the same pace.
All right. Anybody have any other questions? No, all good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You expect him to school?
No. You can show.
No, I thought they were doing a year round or something.
Yeah, we're supposed to.
Okay. When are you going to get those numbers?
Oh, I have the numbers, I just don't have the bottom.
All right. The next order of business is the year-end school budget and general school updates. I think you should all have a packet. There's a cover letter there that says that I guess there's going to be some additional changes, minor ones, as they complete the closeout of fiscal 2018.
So Roz also sends her regrets. I did talk to Scott Rooning, and he said that they expect to close the books out within the next week or so.
Okay.
They received some, just a schedule of when the bills come. The utility bills were just received, so those will go into the next check run. The board has not made a decision about that 1.5% fund that they set up a few years ago. And the end number that you see on page 12 of 12, the very last page of their budget. If you look at the actual year-to-date column, the very last entry, transfer to capital reserves, that $70,000 expense is for the 2017 warrant articles, not the 2018. So the 219,678.04, as you see in the grand total, will be further reduced if they make the decision, and I'm pretty sure they will, to do the, it's what, $80,000, 85 of their warrant articles that were approved this March. Those still need to come out of that, as well as whatever they decide about the 1.5% thing. Does that make sense? No? You're with me?
Sure.
All right, so, when you look at actual year-to-date, you see $70,000. That $70,000 was for warrant articles voted on in March 2017. So a full year and a half ago. Yes?
Okay.
Follow me?
Yeah.
The grand total that you see here, 219 and change,
Yeah.
that would be further reduced by the warrant articles approved in March of 2018. And that total I do not have. And any additional amount they might choose to add to the 1.5% fund. So the warrant articles are the given amounts.
So that number should go down, the 219.
Everybody turn and wave. Did she just fear?
She's all embarrassed now.
So did that, sorry, was that clearer?
So it would be the 219 minus whatever the warrant article totals, and if it's 70,000, it'd be minus another 70,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Minus
No.
whatever they might do for the 1.5. And then that amount would be returned to the town to reduce taxes when you get the tax rate in September, October, whenever it comes. Please say that made sense. I can tell you if you really want to know those amounts. I have to look it up.
Remind me what the 1.5% is about.
The 1.5% fund is an emergency fund that they can so where the town can keep a surplus of available cash.
Okay.
That if need be, right, so we lost a dump truck. We're hoping to get it back, but if we found that we could not survive the winter being down a dump truck, we could hold a special meeting, and we have a large pool of money that we could actually use to pay for that dump truck. The school doesn't have that same ability to do a surplus. They don't have a surplus fund. You
Right.
can't just keep money. Anything that they don't spend, they have to give
return.
back to the
Right.
town. This 1.5% is essentially their surplus fund now. They have to vote to approve those monies going into it by town meeting, which you already did, and then they vote on it every year to determine yes we are or no we aren't. And those funds can only be used for emergency purposes. So the roof collapses,
Yeah, what determines an emergency?
the state determines what.
Oh, the state does, okay, so
Yeah.
it's the state school.
So they have to,
administrators.
yes, so they have to go to the state, they have to request the ability to spend the funds. I don't believe there has to be a special town meeting in the traditional sense,
Right.
where, we have an unexpected large expenditure, we have an additional meeting. But I think they still have to hold a public hearing. There's very specific steps that they have to take to spend that money. And it can't be, oh, we want to buy a new stove in the kitchen.
Right.
It has to be kind of catastrophic. They have to have like an unexpected sudden influx of, 20 students in the special ed budget, was blown out of the water and they don't have any money left. So any kind of significant emergency is what they can use that fund for.
So if they rename it for a surplus, there's less red tape, essentially, or are they trying to?
I use the term surplus, that's only because it's what I'm familiar with. There is a technical term as to what this fund is called. It was, I think, approved 3 years ago by the voters.
Yeah.
So it was on the ballot, it did receive a positive vote under its technical name. So if you want it, I can get it for you, but I don't happen to have it.
Well, but it's taken from the unused ballots.
Correct.
So that's why it's kind of like a sort of quote-unquote surplus, but it goes into that specific fund just for emergency purposes, and they get to hold on to it for, well, basically the year, and then they have to
They can only collect so much, I believe, up to a certain amounts of their budgets, and again, I don't pretend to understand how that works, but there's mathematical calculations as to how much money they can put aside, how long they can keep it, what they can use it for. Their restrictions are much greater about their use of those funds than, let's say, the town's use of their surplus, because we can literally, something happens, we notify the state as well, but we start doing the postings for a special town meeting. And then we have everybody get together and we follow the same procedures as a traditional March meeting, just it's the special time of year. And I've never experienced that, so don't ask me how it works. So those were Scott's notes. And if you guys have any questions as you review this, email Ross. And
Okay, so
her
those are the
email.
only notes that they sent with regards to the budget?
If you don't have anything at this moment that you want me to include as an action item, any questions just need to go to Ross.
Okay. So, yeah. And, so why don't we do it this way? I don't want to spend hours here looking at this and going line by line. I was looking to have sort of a, general overview. So why don't we take this and you guys look at it, review it. If you have any questions, why don't you send them all to me or send NCC Dawn, and then we'll compile them together, and then we can send them off to Roz and get some answers back, rather than spending an hour going through line by line trying to figure out what's going on here. If we don't, we haven't seen the major changes. So I think that's probably best. If you want to send me any questions, concerns that you have with regards to the budget once you've had a chance to look at it, and then we can compile it and get some answers before the next meeting. That would be great.
This document is essentially the year-end.
It's essentially the year end. There's a couple of changes that are going in, like you said, with regards to some of the bills that have not been paid yet and have not been received, so they don't know what those amounts are. But the fluctuation shouldn't be too drastic. So I think if you want to just review it, at your leisure and let's say you want to do the end of next week, if you have any questions and things that you want to address, send them to me an email and CC Dawn, and then we can get them to Roz. I think that would be the easiest thing to do.
Do you guys want those totals for their warrant articles?
Sure.
$50,000 to the Building Repair Capital Reserve Fund. $15,000 to the Ground Improvement Reserve Fund. And $20,000 to the Textbook Reserve Fund.
And they're all reserve funds, correct?
They are all reserve funds. And then the last thing, and I don't know the answer to this, was the $30,000 for the improvements to the library. That was a raise and appropriate. I know they've started to spend it,
was gonna say they're working on that now, right?
Right, so but I believe all of those expenditures based on that $30,000 will come directly from the 18-19 operating budget. You'll see them when you get your next iteration. So 50, 70, so an additional 85 will come out.
Okay. Thank you. Now for the exciting stuff. Approval of minutes, February 1.
I apologize for the February 8th delay.
Yeah, I didn't get to read those. I read the other ones and I had no changes in the other ones, in the February 1.
Sweet. You can make the decision to postpone February 8th if you don't want to hang out here any longer. You can do it the whole thing to the next meeting if that's what you choose.
We're gonna have other stuff to deal with at the next meeting, so I don't know if everybody's all right with just going through the minutes and getting those out of the way, because they're,
I like the first more than the 8th.
what's that?
But I like the first more than the 8th.
Yeah. So, you know, in light of the summer weather and certain things too, if you want to read them and get them back to me by, Friday of next week with any changes, or get them back to Dawn with any changes, then we can address them that way. We just won't be able to vote on them.
So last year, we did kind of talk about the idea of creating the
Yes.
Google account. We can try it with this if you guys are willing.
Yeah.
I'll upload these, I'll email you the Google account information, and then you guys can go in and edit to your heart's content.
That would be fantastic. I think
Right.
that will save everybody a lot of time.
Right.
And make it easier on you too, so.
It typically will make the meeting go faster simply because it does kind of, not to say that the legal statute doesn't force me, but
Yeah,
it really pushes me to make sure that they're in that folder within the 5 days. So it may mean that you won't, especially once you get into your November, December, January timeframe, if you get them 3 days in advance, that would be great. But it may mean that you have to postpone approving of those to the following meeting rather than a week later. So, and again, it's not a
which
huge
is fine, but
deal.
the approval process will go much easier because we'll still have time to do it on the side versus doing it
Correct.
here and going through like that, so that'd be nice. Is everybody okay with that?
We'll see how it goes. I mean, this is new for me. You know, when I do it with the Board of Selectmen, I email them the minutes. They open them themselves, make the edits, and then send them back. But there's only 5 of them, so it's a big number difference, whereas you guys are so many.
Okay.
I'd rather you all see the changes as they go. So if 3 of you have the same change, 1 of you gets in first, and it's done.
Right. Yeah, no, that'd be good.
Okay?
Excellent, thank you. The next order of business is appointing subcommittee members. So we need a school transportation and CIP committee volunteers.
So I was just going to say, there are enough of you. You can appoint somebody if you so choose.
What are the days and time commitments of both committees?
CIP, you can talk to that, right? As far as the
We
commitment.
had, maybe 3 or 4 meetings tops.
I was going to say 4 or 5, but yeah.
And it was typically an hour, hour and a half on a long one. It wasn't, an all-night session. And,
Carol said she would be willing to do the school transportation meeting again.
Oh,
Yeah.
I nominate Carol for school. All in favor?
Great.
So that's done. for the CIT committee.
It's an interesting committee.
I'm sure it is, yeah. There's a lot going on.
I'm the newbie, but my biggest thing is the day. I'm still going to Massachusetts the first and third Wednesday of each week. I don't want to commit to something being so brand new without, do you recall where they,
Were they, I don't know,
Certain nights,
was it
or-
flexible when Chris kind of needed a meeting? Did he just email everybody and say, when can you meet? And then,
Yeah, the committee isn't a large committee, there's what, 4 or 5 of us.
and there were some Thursdays that you met on a Thursday before this committee meeting.
okay.
So,
So I think the committee is flexible enough to schedule a meeting among those that are available to meet on any particular day.
Yeah, you said there's only 4 to 5 members total, so it's of
That's
the,
what it was last year.
it's
And only 4 to 5 meetings.
statutory, yeah. Chris is typically the person for the Board of Selectmen. You have a budget committee member, a planning board member, a school board member, and you can and maybe might have a public member. It just depends on how much that somebody really wants to participate.
and besides the meetings, there's not much homework, for lack of a better word.
You know, you come with your ideas and you talk about your ideas, and there's a document that's an ongoing document that is up for making adjustments to every year. And that's primarily based on the information that Chris passes along, saying that the departments have given him some heads up that they're going to need so many dollars out so many years from now. It's all pretty well organized.
And about how long of, like, if you recall, of then me reporting to you guys, it's not much of a.
You report back basically after the meetings and you just give us, sort of a rundown of what was discussed and what you're working on and what challenges you're dealing with or whatever. And that's it. It's a recap of what's going on this year.
I can see how eager everyone else is, so.
I'm ready to throw my name in there, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm here for the 3-year long run, I might as well get my, try it out for a year anyway, so.
Okay.
I'll be interested in,
And if you need backup, I can be an alternate.
thank you.
I'd be happy to go.
Yeah, there'll always be somebody that will help out with that, so that's not a problem. So, the lead nominates herself. And I
That
second.
doesn't happen.
All in favor?
Great.
All right. Excellent.
I can nominate myself for an alternate.
There you go. Yep.
Perfect.
And I will second that, and we're all in favor. All right. Last thing is roundtable.
Well, again, you can make another nomination if you so choose.
If we can, if Tim has interest in joining.
Is it a 1 year?
It is a one-year, yep.
So I'd be interested in the 1 year, because that's a very short commitment compared to these.
So, currently it's a 1 year position. What's the other one is, I guess they're both 1 year,
They're
right?
all going to be 1 year,
They're all
right?
1 year.
Well, any appointed position is by definition.
Yeah.
Oh, 1 year, right, yeah.
So we have 2, so we need one more body.
Yeah.
So check with your friends, your neighbors, your family members.
Yeah, right. Pull and tackle.
Yeah.
So how does this, do I nominate or,
It is to nominate, yep.
okay. So I would like to nominate, what?
You can do an interview if you'd like.
Do we want to do an interview?
I
Who are you?
We need to know who we're,
Please feel free to ask Tim any questions. So you have
We did a pre-screening.
just ask him to state why he's interested or why he agreed to be recruiter, however that works.
Yeah, so,
We'll make sure I buy you dinner afterwards, but.
yeah. I shot him an email a while back and said, you know, Will Bird told me that you might be interested, come down and check it out, and so he's here to see when I check it out. He asked me a couple of questions with regards to, you know, what the whole process was and who's involved and things like that, and what the commitments were, and he still had interest, as you can see him here tonight. So, Tim, if you want to just give us a quick, you know, about yourself and what you do and why you want to be on the commission.
So I've lived in Nottingham for 13 years now. My wife, we've got 3 boys. She serves on the school board, my wife does. She has for the past 2 years now. And she had mentioned it to me that this is opening. She thought I would be interested. I have a finance background, so numbers kind of interest me. And I'd like to get more involved in the town. So she thought this would be a good position for me. I agree because I enjoy the kind of what you guys do. So. Great. Other than that, I can pass any legal background. Credit check, yeah.
Did anybody have any questions for Tim? All right. I would like to nominate Tim Davrio as a member of the Budget Committee for 2018-19. All in favor?
All right.
So I think the next steps is he needs to go in and sign.
You will, I will, yep, I'll produce an appointment form for you to go to the town clerk, and you can go in and see her whenever she's open, and you can sign it,
Okay.
all right? You guys will sign it at your next meeting, so it's a little proactive, but.
Yeah. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time and wanting to be involved. Appreciate that. So I think it's very unfortunate. Yeah. It's nice to have the, you know, diversity in town and people involved. So I think I've always enjoyed it. I've been here almost 5 years now. And so I like being a part of it and being able to affect change and so on. All right.
Not yet, not round table yet. Take a look at the membership forms, make sure that I haven't messed up the addresses or cell phone numbers, because it
There's
happens.
lots of updates on this tab with changes to the,
I have to delete the old ones.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Scott's is Bob's email. So.
No, I don't know why that happened, and it's copy and paste, I just know it out. All right,
We know who.
check those.
For Tony, for Ben needs to be updated, and then you can move Scott up. His email is where Nate is. So those 3, Scott, Bob, and Nate, all need to be updated.
Oh.
In the middle, it looks like Chris Matthews.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
need to take their emails out. So Tim, I'm gonna be able to put you in one of those spots. But is everything else correct?
My personal info is.
Okay, good. Mike, you good?
Probably. Nothing changes.
Yeah, mine is fine. Okay.
Thank you.
Lee, yours is okay?
I can add my phone number if you want, or however.
If you have I'll take both, I'll list whatever one you want, but given the last few winters we've had, I do like a cell phone just in case we have an unexpected cancellation. Carrie, you good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Jen?
Yep. I just noticed the top, I think it should say 18, 19, not 17, 18,
Oh, yeah.
but all my stuff is good.
Okay. And then next week, or next meeting, you guys will get the first draft of your calendar, believe it or not.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Is there a tentative date for our next
No.
September?
No, you guys can have that discussion right now.
One thing that typically comes up, maybe between now and the next meeting, is the trainings.
As soon, I can check tomorrow, and
Since you're-
if it's there, I'll email everyone.
Those are,
So for Lee and Tim, the New Hampshire Municipal Association every year offers 2 opportunities for a day-long training. One, I think, is in Manchester or Bedford, and the other is up in Conway. So you can choose, we pay your mileage, they give you a great budget book. It gives you the rules, some common things that happen. It's a great training for a little bit of money, and it really will help you as you go along the process, especially if you've never done a town budget before.
it's the town's money, it's not your money.
Yeah, it's our money, yes, we'll pay for you to go, or you will actually pay for yourselves to go, but,
Reimbursement.
yeah. So I'll email those dates as soon as they become available, and then you just let me know which ones you want, and I'll send you up, and you can go.
What month, or is it a few, or do you recall any?
September is usually, if I remember correctly, is the
Yeah.
month that it happens.
I think it's just one date per location, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
one
Yeah,
day
yeah.
per location, and they're spread out a little bit, a couple weeks apart from each other. I think Manchester happens before the one up at, it's way up there. That's
Bartlett.
Bartlett, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful guys, that's where I've been.
Yeah.
Really nice long
Long
day.
drive. Good drive,
Yeah.
especially when it's late September.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I've always gotten some good info from that, and then you get to meet people from all the different towns that are doing the same thing and running into the same issues and so on, so it's a good learning experience.
I actually have the dates. September 12th.
So Wednesday.
Wait, yeah, it doesn't give me the day, it just gives me the date. So September 12th is the workshop in Manchester at the Dairyfield Banquet Facility, and I have no idea, but I can, again, you'll get that when we email. And then the second one is September 20th, and they've changed the location to Lincoln, to Mount Club on Moon. And both of those are from 9 to 4:30. So it does make a long day if you have to drive to Lincoln, but sometimes dates just happen.
And those are, curious what day of the week that
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, Thursday.
is. The 20th is a
The
Thursday.
12th is a Wednesday, the 20th is a Thursday.
You have to throw in sick day in there, because I'm a little for the whole weekend. All right. So now we are at round table. Does anybody have any items of business to address or bring up?
What are you gonna do for our next meeting?
It's September's.
I would say the 13th, if we're doing September, the 13th or the 20th, the 27th is school open, is an open house night.
So I'd like to skip that because I think a lot of you did that last year and I didn't know, and I scheduled it and it made it tough.
And if I'm going to Lincoln for the long weekend, you know, so. Looks like the 13th is an open house too.
It is.
Uh-oh.
How do you guys know this?
It was in an email just came out, I think, like very recently. Last couple days, I think.
So typically that next meeting does review what happened at the budget workshop. So you could push it out to October 4th.
That works for me.
That's fine for me.
Looks good on my end. Everybody okay with October 4th?
Yeah.
So before then, so we'll get, you'll send us the minutes for February 1 and 8, and then you can send us the minutes for this, and we can take care of that too.
Yep.
Excellent.
There had been discussion in the past about potentially starting some of your meetings earlier. I don't know if you want to try for 6:30, or if you want to keep them at 7.
Yeah, it all depends on what everybody's schedule. Before it was Michael, who's,
Yeah, I'm no longer a problem.
he's a retired.
I used to be such a.
You had a commute too, eh? Yeah.
So do you want to leave it at 7 and then,
What works best for everybody? Either one is fine. What time are you?
As long as I have enough notice, I can make it work in my calendar, so.
I know, Carrie, you travel far, so is it not good?
I can try it. It's just when I get close to Christmas, that's when
It's,
Oh,
I
yeah.
it's
Right.
season at work, so.
Right.
But,
That's when we got the long meetings.
yeah, I know, trust me, I struggle with
Yeah.
trying to, but, I'm willing to give it a try and
Okay.
see. I may come in a few minutes late on occasion.
It'll be the new Michael Keith.
We can always change it up. too. I mean, if everybody's
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
flexible, we can certainly change it up and do it that, we start out with the early ones at 6:30, and then as the season goes on and it gets more challenging for you, we'll push it back
But
to 7.
that's when our meetings get long, so I'm
Yeah,
up for giving
that's-
it a try. I got no problem, but I know you might do I don't want to go against an opportunity to work.
So 6:30 it is then.
And then the other thing to keep in mind, I know Mishka, you and I had kind of talked about the fact that you sometimes felt rushed in reviewing your budgets. Town ones, I really definitely try to make sure that you guys get them as early as possible. Sometimes it's easier than others. So it might be part of your guys' discussion at your next meeting to talk about how many meetings do you really want to have. I can do the calendar based on last year's calendar, which included like the first draft review, and then you had the meeting directly after to talk about that first draft. So I'll set it up in that same flow, and if you guys feel you want more, we can find the
Yeah, I
time,
think
if that's what you guys
I
decide.
mean,
or-
personally, I think last year worked out better than previous years
Yeah,
because of the fact that we had that extra time, and honestly, we need it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to review, and I always felt pressured when I got, Wednesday night for a Thursday night meeting and so on. So, if we can, do the same that you did last year with working with the school's calendar, and obviously the town's calendar as well. I know that's always a challenge, but.
We're definitely a little bit more flexible simply because when we do have an extra month, I mean, your hearings for the town are not until February, where school has to be in January. So we wouldn't think that, 2 to 3 weeks are really that much of a struggle, but given the holidays and everything else that go on, it's been tough.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's
I'll-
tough too, because the school tends to meet on Wednesday nights, and then, so they're doing last minute stuff, and they don't get their revisions done until noontime Thursday, when you're meeting Thursday night, it's like.
If you can schedule our
That
meetings
opposite.
a week after the school board meetings.
Oh, yeah,
that
that would be better.
Yeah, and I really did try, I think last year especially, to try to make sure that the town ones were the same week that the school met to kind of push those out. So I'll do the same. I'll work with I haven't had to work with Bob O'Sullivan yet, so it'll be,
Now, at what point does the town close out on like their quarterlies and so on? Or
We-
close out?
we just did our second quarter. We didn't even, but we really, I mean, Chris keeps an eye on the expenses all the time. working with Betsy, the finance director. But from an export perspective, we didn't do anything until second quarter. So she entered as much as she possibly could prior to the last Board of Selectmen meeting where they reviewed this budget. And that was it. So we can do a third quarter next meeting if that's what you choose. It would be the expenses up to that, like Friday before your meeting. Betsy will do a new export. I'll import them into the Excel spreadsheet and then email it to you guys that way.
Yeah, that would be great.
The only quick question, our next meeting is the same week as the school board meeting for October 4th. Is that going to be?
Won't be a problem until you,
Until
yeah.
we're further into it, okay?
Yeah. November,
It's November is when it really.
yeah,
Right.
when it starts to be, I have to be a little more aware.
Good. Alright. So that said, I think what else is going on? I know, just because I'm not involved with it, but I know they're having concerts in the park. And every Tuesday night, they're also doing like barbecue out there. And the barbecue is a fundraiser for the 300th anniversary. So, just wanted to remind everybody that that's going on this summer. I don't know how bad the bugs are, I haven't been there yet. So. Was it? No, Tuesday. Yeah, it's every Tuesday night. And then you can get a 2-for-1, because then you can swing by Liar's Paradise and see all the fancy cars, and, the kids love that, so they're constantly trying to get me to drive them down there. Cool. That is all I have. Who wants to adjourn the meeting?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Awesome.
Thank you all very much, and we will see you October 4th. And don't forget to email me your questions regarding the school budget